Welcome back to another video, guys, and today we're going to be discussing a couple mistakes that I see a lot of people make when they're mixing MIDI drums or sending MIDI drums to be mixed by another person. But before we get into today's topic, if you guys would like for me to mix your music, shoot me an email at divinemotherstudios@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you guys with details of your project. All right, so first things first, you need to print your MIDI drums to audio tracks. It's going to help you guys when it comes to workflow. It's going to help you guys when it comes to decision making. And it's going to help you guys get a lot better at mixing in general. You don't want to be mixing in your software, like if you have Easy Drummer or Superior Drummer, you want to be mixing on your DAW with actual audio tracks. Now, I know that some DAWs, like mine, have you be able to mix like this, with the mixer, and these are MIDI tracks, not actual audio tracks. So you can get away with doing that, but even then, I don't recommend mixing your MIDI drums within your DAW if they're not printed to audio tracks. The reason being, again, is because it forces you to make decisions that are committed. And if you have commitment, you're going to get better at mixing in the long run. If you have the option to change things on the fly or change the drums on the fly, you're going to do that. The human mind wants to go back and change things that, may not need to be changed. So just a backstory on that, I mixed my band's first single. I picked the drums, I mixed the whole song, I sent it off to a mentor of mine, and that mentor told me that it was perfectly listenable, people wouldn't be able to tell, it's completely good to go. The only thing he did point out was that the snare drum was maybe a little bit mixed squishy, is how he put it, but he emphasized that the average person may not be able to hear that. So a couple months go by, and then I decided to remix the song because my friend did a music video for us, and I wanted a better mix to be on that music video. So I went back and I completely chose different drum tones and different snare drums and toms, etc. I reprinted the new audio tracks, and then I went ahead and remixed the entire song with the new drums. And I sent it off to the band, and they told me that the number one thing that was the drums sound way better. So that just goes to show you guys that when you commit to specific drum tones, it's a lesson to be learned every time that you do that, and ultimately it's going to make you guys a better mixer. So a quick little strategy on how I pick drum tones for specific genres or different types of style of music and stuff. If I'm mixing like a technical death metal track, like my band, I'm going to pick something that's a little bit tighter, a little bit less loose, and I want the kick drum to have a specific tone where it inherently has a bit of a click to it already, and the snare drum to have a bit more of a upper end crack to it. But like, let's say I'm mixing like a more doom metal track or a black metal track, I'm gonna pick something that's a little bit less defined and that has a little bit more of a ring to it. Now, these drums are the drums I used for my band, and these drums already had really kind of a good starting point for where I wanted. Now, Superior Drummer has this tuning feature, and I felt like I needed to increase the tuning up a little bit just to make them a little bit tighter, especially on the snare drum and the kick drum. They were a great starting point, like I said, but this snare drum here, which is a great sounding snare drum, was a little bit too low in tuning for me. Let me show you guys what the original tuning sounded like. So pretty low, pretty deep, but I can already hear the characteristics of like the upper mids that I'm looking for. If I tune it up just a little bit, it's going to be a little bit more in line for what my band is going for. So that low end is a little bit more controlled and a little bit tighter and punchier. Kind of the same thing with the kick drum. Here's the original drum tones for the kick. A great sounding kick drum, awesome sound, but I needed to tune it up just a little bit because we do have very fast double parts. And I kind of did the same thing for the toms. So those are the toms sounds when they're tuned up. And here is the original toms with the tuning off. So it's a subtle difference, but in the mix, it does make a big difference as the toms get to be a little bit tighter, the fundamental frequencies get shifted up a little bit, and it's just something to consider, guys, if your drum software allows you to tune the drums, to just experiment with, and depending on the music that you guys work on. Now, when it comes to bouncing down your MIDI drums, I don't know how it is in other DAWs, but really, Studio One makes it extremely simple. I just got to go here, output everything to its own individual tracks here, and then assign it to the audio tracks that they're going to be printed. And usually what I like to do is just do it in one giant go and kind of just arm everything after everything has been assigned its proper values, and then kind of just hit the record button and then get to it. It's really, really simple to just get some printed drums going. Now, there is an issue, if you can't tell already, that it comes down as stereo. We don't want that when it comes down to mixing. So I'm going to show you guys a trick that I've learned over the years that allows me to get mono tracks out of my drum software. And don't know why it took me so long to learn this, but for whatever reason it did. Really, all you got to do is just pick either left or right. I always just go left, and then just pan each drum to the left 100%. Now, you don't want to do this on your overheads and your room mics because those are actually stereo microphones. But for drums that have just individual microphones like the China, Ride, Toms, etc., just go ahead and pan everything to the left, because essentially what's going to happen is that it's only going to come out on the left channel, basically making it mono. So now let's go ahead and rearm our drums here, and let's start to record them again. And there you go. Now we have mono tracks that we can work with, only coming out on one channel. And you're probably wondering, like, man, that's not good. I can only still hear it on the left side of my headphones or speakers. Well, really, all you got to do is bounce them down to mono by making your tracks mono tracks, just like this. For Studio One, it's Control B. There you go. I now have mono tracks. So I know every DAW is a little bit different, but that is extremely important for you guys to be aware of, because this is what's going to allow you guys to get the most realistic emulations of drums possible. When you're mixing stereo tracks like that, which, guys, I get all the time from clients, is stereo drum tracks. Whether you guys realize it or not, it actually does affect the sides. There is some interplay between the left and right channels when you guys send me stereo kicks or stereo snare drums. It's very subtle, but it is there. And it will accumulate across each individual drum. So if you have, 10 pieces of a drum kit, all stereophile, even though they may sound mono to you, you're going to have issues on the sides when it comes down to your guitars and all the other issues that come up with mixing stereo drum tracks. I would also recommend that you bounce down each individual drum track, except your overheads and your room mics, to mono after you have done printing. Now, I'm going to go over some good common practices and some bad common practices for just MIDI in general. So let me show you guys what a bad sounding MIDI programming looks like. Go to a different section here. Now, it may not sound too crazy, but that's because Superior Drummer has multi-sample drums. But look at this. Everything is not humanized. He humanized it kind of by programming certain sections in a way that, has different velocities, but there's no variation within those sections. Humanization needs to look a little bit more like this, where there's the variations within those sections, but there isn't. On top of that, there is no humanization on the drums in terms of timing. They're all just right on the grid, which is, you don't want that either. Studio One has a really cool button where I just hit Shift H and it humanizes the time. And there you go. I have some humanization on my snare drum. Everything's a little bit off the grid. So this is an example of bad MIDI drums. Everything's on the red. Everything's just like slammed up. It's just not happening, right? Let me show you guys an example of really good MIDI drums that have been programmed very well. That sounds way more real than the other example. It actually sounds like someone's playing the drum kit, and you can definitely tell that they put massive amounts of effort into the MIDIs, velocities, and timing. So you guys want to get the realistic drums that you guys are going for and not have your drum sound machine gun-like. This is what you got to do. You got to go to the extent that these gentlemen did when they sent me these particular drum tracks. Even the cymbals have different velocities. Even the toms have a really great, humanization. Like, that sounds fantastic. So just kind of want to leave you guys with that. You guys don't want to be lazy, and you want to put the time into your MIDI drums so that they sound really good, so that when you do print them down, you're not struggling to make them have more of a human feel, because they inherently have that sound already built into them. Again, just going to recap a bit of the benefits here of printing down your audio tracks with really good MIDI drums here. You want to print them down so that you commit to those drum tones, It's going to force you guys to be a much better mixer. If you're sending your music off to somebody else to be mixed, you're going to make their life a little bit easier, and they're going to be forever grateful for you. As a result, you're going to come back with a much better product because you took the time to print them down, make the humanization on your MIDI very good, and you're going to be a lot happier with the mix that they give you. All right, guys, just a quick video on that. I'll catch you guys in the next one.